In the heart of a forest, a young boy stumbled upon a heart-wrenching sight: a K9 dog tied tightly to a tree, left to die. As the boy knelt beside the weakened creature, he had no idea that this chance encounter would spark a chain of events that would leave the world speechless. The woods were quiet that afternoon, bathed in the fading glow of the autumn sun. Daniel, a curious and adventurous 12-year-old, loved exploring the edges of his small town. His worn sneakers crunched on fallen leaves as he ventured deeper into the woods. Today, though, something felt different. There was a stillness that made his skin prickle, as if the forest itself were holding its breath. As he rounded a bend marked by a gnarled oak tree, Daniel froze. His eyes widened in shock as he spotted a dark shape slumped against the base of a tree. At first, he thought it was a pile of old rags, but as he crept closer, he realized it was a dog, large, with matted fur streaked with dirt and dried blood. A thick rope was wound cruelly around its neck, tying it tightly to the tree. The animal's chest rose and fell shallowly, its breathing labored and faint. Daniel's heart twisted. "Oh no," he whispered, dropping to his knees. His hands trembled as he reached out to touch the dog's head gently. The dog flinched but didn't resist. Its eyes, a deep amber, met his with a mix of fear and resignation. Daniel's throat tightened. How long had it been there, alone and forgotten? He glanced around, hoping to spot an adult or a neighbor who could help, but the woods were empty. His pulse raced as he realized it was up to him. He rummaged through his backpack, pulling out his water bottle and dribbling a few drops into the dog's mouth. The animal licked feebly at the water, a flicker of life returning to its gaze. "Hang in there," Daniel murmured, his voice trembling. "I'll get you out of here." He worked to untie the rope, cursing the knots that refused to budge. His small fingers bled from the rough fibers, but he didn't stop until the last loop fell away. The dog collapsed forward, its body too weak to move. Without hesitation, Daniel slipped his arms under the animal's torso, trying to lift it. The weight was too much for him alone, but he shifted and adjusted, determined not to leave the dog behind. With each staggering step, he half dragged, half carried the dog along the trail. His legs ached and his breaths came in short gasps, but he refused to stop. The dog's shallow breaths were a fragile thread, tethering it to life, and Daniel wasn't about to let it slip away. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows that danced across the forest floor. After what felt like hours, Daniel broke through the edge of the woods, stumbling into his family's backyard. His mother, startled by the sight, rushed forward. "Daniel, what happened?" she cried, her voice filled with concern. Daniel collapsed to his knees, tears streaking his dirt-smeared face. "I found him in the woods," he gasped. "He was tied up. He's dying." His mother knelt beside them, her hands hovering over the dog's frail body. "We need to get help," she said, her voice trembling. She shouted for Daniel's father, who came running with his phone. Together, they lifted the dog into the back of their car, Daniel clinging to its side as they sped toward the nearest veterinarian. As they drove, Daniel's mind raced. Who had done this? Why had they left the dog to suffer alone? He didn't have answers, only a burning determination to save the animal's life. Beside him, the dog's breathing slowed, but its eyes remained open, locked onto Daniel's face as though holding on for one last chance. The car's tires crunched over the gravel driveway of the local veterinary clinic as Daniel's father slammed on the brakes. The moment the doors swung open, Daniel and his parents scrambled to lift the dog out, carrying its limp body through the clinic's front door. The receptionist's eyes widened in shock, and within moments, a team of veterinary staff rushed forward, ushering them into an examination room. Daniel's heart pounded as he knelt by the table where they laid the dog. His mother gently pulled him back to give the vet space, but he couldn't stop staring at the animal. The dog's fur was matted with dirt and dried blood, patches of skin raw and oozing. Its ribs protruded sharply beneath its filthy coat, and its breathing was shallow, each rise and fall of its chest more labored than the last. The thick rope burns around its neck were a brutal testament to its suffering. Dr. Ellis, the lead veterinarian, examined the dog with a practiced eye, her brows furrowed in concern. "This dog is severely dehydrated, malnourished, and injured," she murmured. "I'm not sure how long he's been like this, but he's on the brink of collapse. He must have been tied up for days, maybe even weeks." Daniel clenched his fists, his stomach churning with anger and helplessness. "Can you save him?" he asked softly, his voice barely a whisper. The question hung in the air, thick with hope and desperation. Dr. Ellis met his gaze with a measured look. "We'll do everything we can," she said firmly. "But it's going to be a tough road. He's critical right now, and we need to stabilize him before we can even think about treating the wounds." They began administering fluids through an IV, carefully cleaning his injuries and giving him oxygen. The dog barely flinched, too weak to resist, though his eyes flickered open once in a while, fixing on Daniel with a mixture of confusion and gratitude. Daniel sat silently, his hand resting gently on the dog's paw, his fingers trembling. "You're not alone anymore," he whispered. "You're going to make it." As hours passed, the vet team worked tirelessly, but progress was slow. The dog's pulse fluttered dangerously, and his temperature dropped. At times, Dr. Ellis exchanged worried glances with her assistants, as if silently preparing for the worst. Yet, each time the dog stirred, Daniel felt a spark of hope. Word spread through the clinic and into the small town. The story of a boy who had found a dying dog tied up in the woods caught everyone's attention. Strangers called the clinic, offering prayers and even donations to cover medical expenses. Some whispered rumors about cruelty, questioning how anyone could have left a K9 to such a fate. By nightfall, the dog was resting, though his condition remained critical. Daniel's family stayed with him, taking turns sitting by his side. The boy refused to leave, his eyes heavy with exhaustion, but his resolve unshaken. He whispered stories to the dog, telling him about his school, his favorite adventures, and his hope that they'd have more adventures together once the dog was better. As the clinic lights dimmed for the night, Dr. Ellis approached Daniel gently. "He's still fighting," she said softly, "but we'll have to wait and see through the night. He's got a strong spirit, just like you." Daniel nodded, his hand never leaving the dog's paw. Somewhere deep down, he believed the dog wasn't ready to give up, not yet. The long hours of the night bled into dawn, painting the veterinary clinic's walls in soft gold, as Daniel sat slumped in a chair beside the examination table. The dog lay still, his breathing shallow but steady. Daniel's head drooped, exhaustion tugging at him. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw the image of the dog tied to the tree, struggling for life. That memory fueled his determination to stay awake, to be there for the creature that had already endured too much. Dr. Ellis checked the dog's vitals one last time and gave Daniel a weary smile. "He made it through the night," she said softly. "It's a good sign, but he's still very weak. He'll need constant care and close monitoring. We'll do our part, but he's going to need someone to stay by his side." Daniel's mother placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "We'll take shifts," she said. "We're not leaving him alone." Later that morning, with the vet's cautious approval, they carefully transferred the dog to their car. Wrapped in blankets and cradled as gently as possible, he barely stirred, his weight feather light in Daniel's arms. The drive home was tense and silent, every bump and turn making Daniel flinch with worry. As they pulled into the driveway, he opened the door and guided his father as they carried the dog inside. They made a bed of old comforters near the fireplace, where the dog could stay warm and safe. Daniel sat cross-legged nearby, speaking softly as he gently stroked the dog's head. "You're safe now," he murmured. "You're home." The dog's tail twitched weakly in response, the first real sign of life since they had found him. Over the next few days, Daniel dedicated himself completely to the dog's care. He woke early to administer water and medicine, often coaxing him to take small sips. He massaged the dog's stiff legs, willing strength back into the weakened muscles. Each task was a battle, but Daniel never faltered. The dog's eyes followed his every movement, as if drawing strength from the boy's unwavering determination. Neighbors stopped by with supplies, bags of dog food, clean towels, and donations for vet bills. Daniel's classmates, upon hearing the story, sent handmade get-well cards and stuffed animals to comfort the dog. The quiet corner of the living room transformed into a sanctuary filled with warmth and hope. One afternoon, as Daniel was gently brushing dirt from the dog's coat, he noticed a faint scar near the dog's shoulder. Leaning closer, he realized it was a tattooed identification number, barely visible under the matted fur. His heart raced. Could this dog be more than just an abandoned pet? Could he have once belonged to someone important? Driven by curiosity, Daniel shared the discovery with Dr. Ellis during a checkup. She scanned the dog's microchip, and the results were shocking. The system pinged with a match. This wasn't just any dog. This was a registered K9 unit, trained for police work and presumed lost during a mission months ago. The realization sent a ripple of disbelief through Daniel and his family. As the dog lay sleeping beside the fire that night, Daniel stared into the flames, his mind racing with questions. Who had left the dog tied in the woods? How had he ended up there, and why had no one searched for him? The answers were elusive, but one thing was certain. The boy's discovery had stirred something bigger than either of them could have imagined. In the quiet warmth of the living room, with the dog's faint breathing beside him, Daniel vowed to uncover the truth. He wouldn't rest until the dog's story was known, and justice was served. The following morning, the sun poured golden light through the living room windows, casting a warm glow over the makeshift bed where the dog lay resting. His breathing had steadied overnight, and though he was still weak, his eyes now opened wider, following Daniel's every move. It was as though the dog sensed he was no longer abandoned, that he was safe and among those who cared. Daniel's family gathered around, their faces a mixture of relief and curiosity. His father, usually stoic, knelt beside the dog and gently scratched behind his ears. "He's a fighter," he murmured. "He wouldn't have made it through the night if he wasn't." Daniel beamed with pride, his hand resting lightly on the dog's paw. "I think he's a hero," he said softly. "He just needs someone to believe in him." Their local vet, Dr. Ellis, arrived for a home checkup, her bag filled with supplies. She knelt to examine the dog, her hands skilled and gentle as she checked his pulse and hydration levels. "He's making progress," she said with a cautious smile. "But he's still fragile. His muscles are atrophied from being tied up, and he's severely underweight. It'll take weeks, maybe months, for a full recovery." Daniel's mother brought over a bowl of warm broth, and Daniel offered it to the dog, who sniffed cautiously before lapping it up. The simple action made Daniel's heart swell with hope. For the first time, the dog was responding, taking the first steps toward recovery. That afternoon, word spread quickly through the small town. Neighbors stopped by, bringing donations of food, blankets, and even toys for the dog. The story of a young boy rescuing a dying K9 dog from the woods resonated deeply, sparking acts of kindness from people Daniel barely knew. Reporters began calling, curious about the boy's bravery and the dog's mysterious past. One local news team arrived at their home, setting up cameras in the yard, while Daniel, still shy and overwhelmed, stood protectively by the dog's side. The reporter knelt, her microphone aimed toward him. "How did you find him?" she asked. Daniel swallowed, glancing down at the dog. "I was walking in the woods, and I saw him tied up. He was hurt and scared. I couldn't just leave him there. He needed help." The reporter smiled gently. "And now?" Daniel hesitated, then straightened his shoulders. "Now he's part of our family. I'll help him get better, no matter how long it takes." The camera crew captured the moment as the dog lifted his head, his tail giving the faintest wag. The image of the frail, recovering K9 beside the determined boy melted hearts across the community and beyond. The story spread across social media and news outlets, inspiring countless people who saw hope and resilience in their unlikely bond. Dr. Ellis, observing from the side, leaned toward Daniel's father. "That boy has the kind of heart this world needs," she said quietly. "And that dog, he's lucky to have found him." As the sun dipped low, casting the yard in hues of amber and rose, Daniel sat by the dog's side, gently stroking his head. His heart was light, his spirit determined. Together, they had begun a journey of healing and discovery, one that was far from over. A week had passed since Daniel's discovery in the woods, and with each day the dog grew a little stronger. His breathing steadied, his appetite returned, and his once dull eyes regained a hint of brightness. Daniel, ever attentive, spent hours reading by his side, whispering stories of adventure and hope. But beneath the surface of recovery, an unanswered question lingered. Who was this dog before he was abandoned? The breakthrough came one morning when Dr. Ellis arrived with a scanner. After weeks of speculation, they were finally ready to read the microchip embedded beneath the dog's skin. Daniel held his breath as the scanner beeped and displayed a string of numbers and a registration code. Dr. Ellis's eyes widened in surprise. "This is no ordinary pet," she murmured, glancing at the boy and his family. "He's a registered K9, a police dog. His name is Titan." The name felt heavy in the air, resonating with unspoken memories. Daniel repeated it softly, "Titan," as the dog's ears twitched at the sound. Dr. Ellis continued, "Titan was part of a highly trained K9 unit. According to the database, he went missing during a field operation nearly 6 months ago. He was presumed dead." Shock rippled through the family. "How could he have ended up tied in the woods?" Daniel's father asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. Dr. Ellis hesitated, her brow furrowed. "That's what we need to find out. Someone left him there, and it wasn't an accident. Police dogs don't just go missing. There has to be more to this story." Eager to learn more, Daniel and his father visited the local police department. The officers, upon hearing Titan's name and seeing the identification match, expressed disbelief. "Titan was one of our best," one officer admitted. "He worked with Officer Grant, a handler known for his dedication. We thought they were both lost in an operation that went wrong. There was a report, but what?" Daniel pressed, his heart racing. The officer exchanged a glance with a colleague. "There were rumors," he said quietly. "Whispers of something not adding up. A mission that was supposed to be simple, but Titan's unit disappeared without a trace. Only Officer Grant's badge was found at the scene. No bodies, no dog. Some say it was a cover-up, but no one could prove anything." Daniel's mind swirled with questions. Why had Titan been abandoned? What secrets were buried in the K9 unit's last mission? As he sat beside Titan that evening, he gently stroked the dog's head, whispering, "Don't worry, we'll figure it out. We'll find out what happened to you." The next morning, a letter arrived at the family's home. It was unsigned, delivered by hand, and marked with the words, "For Daniel." Inside was a single sentence. "If you want to know the truth about Titan, meet me at the old train yard at dusk." Daniel's hands trembled as he read the note aloud. His family exchanged worried glances, unsure if it was a threat or an opportunity. But Daniel felt a surge of determination. This was more than just a rescue. It was a mystery, a puzzle that needed solving, and Titan's life depended on it. That evening, with Titan walking unsteadily by his side, Daniel made his way toward the old train yard, the sky painted in shades of crimson and gold. The abandoned tracks stretched into the distance, rusted relics of a forgotten time. Daniel's heart pounded with anticipation. Who had sent the note? What did they know about Titan's past? The evening air was cool, heavy with the scent of damp earth and fallen leaves. The sun dipped behind the distant hills, leaving the sky streaked with deep oranges and purples. Daniel stood by the front porch with Titan resting at his feet. The dog's head tilted slightly as if listening for something beyond the wind. His family had gathered inside, trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy despite the media frenzy and the whispers of danger. A knock on the door broke the quiet. It wasn't the hurried, polite tapping of a neighbor or the persistent rapping of a reporter. It was firm and deliberate. Daniel's father opened the door cautiously, revealing a tall man dressed in a plain, dark jacket and worn jeans. His face was shadowed beneath the brim of a weathered baseball cap, but his eyes were sharp and observant. "I need to speak with the boy," the man said, his voice low but steady. His gaze flicked to Titan, and a trace of recognition flashed across his features. Daniel, drawn by the man's tone, stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. His father hesitated, but finally nodded, stepping aside to let the man in. They moved to the living room, where Titan immediately perked up, his ears pricked, his body alert. The man crouched to the dog's level, his hand extended cautiously. "Hello, old friend," he murmured. Titan sniffed the air, his tail wagging faintly in recognition. Daniel's breath caught. "You know him?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The man looked up, his expression serious. "I was part of Titan's unit," he said quietly. "My name's Caleb. I worked alongside Officer Grant. Titan wasn't just a K9 partner. He was family to us all. When he disappeared, we were told he died in an accident. But I never believed that story." Daniel's father narrowed his eyes. "Why are you here now?" Caleb hesitated, then sat heavily on the couch. "Because I finally found proof," he said, pulling a folded document from his jacket. There was a cover-up. Titan's last mission wasn't an accident. It was sabotage. Someone wanted him and Officer Grant out of the way, and they made sure no one would come looking. Daniel's mind reeled. But why? What did they know? Caleb's lips pressed into a thin line. That's the part I'm still piecing together, he admitted. But Titan's survival is no coincidence. Someone tied him up in those woods, left him to die. They thought he was gone. But you found him, and now the truth is unraveling. Daniel glanced down at Titan, whose eyes seemed to glisten with understanding. The dog shifted closer to Caleb, as if recognizing the voice of an old comrade. So what do we do? Daniel asked, his voice trembling but resolute. Caleb looked around the room, lowering his voice. I need your help. There are files, hidden evidence, things that can prove what happened. But we have to be careful. Whoever did this is watching. They're afraid of the truth coming out. But together, we can finish what Officer Grant and Titan started. Daniel's heart raced with a mixture of fear and determination. He glanced at his parents, who exchanged worried but supportive glances. Then he looked back at Caleb and nodded. We'll help. For Titan and for the truth. As Caleb unfolded a hand-drawn map and laid it on the coffee table, the weight of the secret they were about to uncover settled heavily around them. The living room, once a sanctuary, became the staging ground for a battle against lies and corruption. And at the center of it all was Titan, a dog who had survived against impossible odds, ready to reclaim his place as a hero. The room fell into a tense hush as Caleb leaned over the map spread out on the coffee table. His finger traced a line along faded trails and marked locations. This, he said quietly, tapping a spot near the old quarry on the outskirts of town, is where it all started. Titan's last mission wasn't just a routine search. It was connected to something much bigger, a smuggling operation that involved not only stolen goods, but also corrupt officials. Daniel's breath caught. You mean someone inside the force was working with criminals? Caleb nodded grimly. Officer Grant uncovered a trail of evidence linking high-ranking individuals to the operation. They were using the K9 units to guard and transport illegal cargo under the radar. Titan was trained to detect contraband, but on that last mission, he found something he wasn't supposed to. They couldn't risk being exposed, so they staged the accident, making it look like Titan and Grant were lost during a routine sweep. Daniel's father frowned. But if Titan survived, why tie him up and leave him in the woods? Caleb's jaw tightened. They needed to silence him. If someone found Titan and discovered his identity, it could unravel the whole scheme. But they underestimated his will to live, and your son's determination to help him. Daniel glanced at Titan, whose ears twitched as if understanding every word. The dog shifted closer to Caleb, his gaze steady and unflinching. The weight of the story pressed down on them, a tangled web of betrayal and corruption that reached farther than any of them had imagined. But why now? Daniel's mother asked softly. Why come forward after all this time? Caleb's expression softened. Because I couldn't live with the guilt, he admitted. I was part of that unit. I suspected something was wrong, but I was too scared to speak out. I didn't know they'd go as far as to leave Titan for dead. When I saw the news about the boy who found him, I knew it was time to set things right. Daniel felt a surge of anger and resolve. What can we do to help? Caleb pulled out a small flash drive from his jacket pocket. This has copies of records, communications, and hidden evidence. Everything we need to prove what happened, but we have to be smart. If they realize we have this, they'll try to shut us down before the truth comes out. Daniel's father exchanged a glance with his wife, then turned back to Caleb. We're in, he said firmly. We'll do whatever it takes to help Titan and bring the truth to light. Caleb's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you, he said quietly. But we'll need to move fast. The more people who know, the harder it will be for them to cover it up. We'll start by getting this information to the right people. Journalists, law enforcement who can't be bought, anyone who can help. Daniel looked at Titan, who was watching him with calm, unwavering eyes. He reached out to scratch behind the dog's ears, his voice steady. You're not alone anymore, he whispered. We'll finish what you started. We'll make sure no one forgets what happened to you and Officer Grant. The living room seemed to close in around them, the walls echoing with unspoken promises. In that moment, Daniel realized that the fight for justice was only beginning, and he was ready to face it, side by side with Titan and their new ally. The following morning, Daniel sat at the kitchen table with Caleb and his parents, the flash drive containing the incriminating evidence resting like a ticking time bomb between them. Titan lay nearby, his head resting on his paws, but his ears pricked as if he sensed the weight of the conversation. Caleb's voice was steady, but low. "We have names, dates, locations, enough to make a case, but we can't just hand this over to anyone. We need people we can trust, and we need to make the evidence public before they can bury it again." Daniel's father nodded, his jaw set. "I know a reporter from the local paper. She's honest, and she's been asking the hard questions about Titan's story. If we get this to her, she might be able to break it wide open." Caleb agreed. "Good, but we'll need more than one person. I know someone in the state police, an old friend who left the force after getting tired of the corruption. He might be willing to take this up the chain, especially with the public watching." Daniel's mother chimed in. "And we'll need to stay visible. If we disappear or go silent, they'll know we're onto them. The media attention isn't just a distraction, it's our shield." Daniel, quiet until now, finally spoke. "We should hold a press conference. Tell them what happened. Show them Titan's scars, his records, everything. If the world sees what they did to him, they won't be able to cover it up again." Caleb's lips curved into a small, approving smile. "That's a brave idea, Daniel, but it'll put a target on your back. Are you sure you're ready for that?" Daniel glanced at Titan, whose tail thumped softly against the floor, and nodded. "I'm not afraid. Titan wasn't afraid when he stood up to them. I won't be either." They spent the next few hours meticulously copying the files from the flash drive, creating backups and organizing the information into folders. Caleb taught Daniel how to recognize the key pieces: the financial records, the falsified reports, the hidden communications. Together, they pieced together a timeline of betrayal that painted a clear, damning picture of the conspiracy. By late afternoon, they had a plan. Daniel's father contacted the reporter, arranging a secret meeting at a neutral location where they could safely pass her the evidence. Caleb called his friend in the state police, briefing him on the situation and securing his agreement to quietly initiate an investigation. Meanwhile, Daniel's mother contacted trusted neighbors and friends to spread the word about the upcoming press conference. That night, as they sat around the dinner table with plates of untouched food, a sense of resolve settled over them. They were no longer bystanders in a tragedy. They were warriors for justice. Caleb placed a reassuring hand on Daniel's shoulder. "You're braver than most adults I know," he said quietly. "But we need to be careful. They'll try to stop us, but if we stay united, we can win this." Daniel looked at Titan, who met his gaze with quiet understanding. He reached down, scratching the dog's ears, feeling a surge of determination. "We'll do it," he whispered. "For Titan, for Officer Grant, for everyone they tried to silence." Outside, the sky deepened into twilight, the stars emerging one by one, like witnesses to their promise. The first steps toward justice had been taken, and though the road ahead was uncertain, Daniel knew they would walk it together, guided by loyalty, truth, and courage. The morning of the press conference arrived with a heavy sky, clouds rolling overhead as if mirroring the weight of the truth about to be revealed. Daniel stood nervously outside the town hall, his parents and Caleb by his side. Titan sat at his feet, his eyes bright, his posture proud. Despite his lingering injuries, the dog exuded a quiet strength that inspired everyone around him. The reporters gathered quickly, their cameras and microphones pointed at Daniel and his family. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, a mix of curiosity and disbelief. Some recognized the boy from earlier interviews, but many had come for the promise of something bigger, a scandal hinted at, but not yet confirmed. Caleb stepped forward first, his voice firm and clear. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. We are here today to share the truth about Titan, the K9 dog abandoned and left to die in the woods, and the events surrounding his disappearance. What we reveal today may shock you, but it is the truth, and it needs to be heard." He handed the flash drive to a trusted reporter, who immediately connected it to a laptop. The screen flickered to life, displaying files, emails, and hidden reports. Caleb narrated, revealing the smuggling operation that had used Titan's unit for illegal activities, and the cover-up that followed when Officer Grant discovered the truth. Gasps echoed through the crowd as the evidence unfolded, names of high-ranking officials, financial records of illegal payments, and falsified reports covering the incident. Caleb's voice remained steady, each word stripping away layers of deceit. Daniel's parents stood close, their expressions resolute, while Daniel kept his hand on Titan's back, drawing courage from the dog's steady presence. "I found Titan tied up, left for dead," Daniel said when Caleb motioned for him to speak. His voice trembled at first, but then steadied as he continued. "He wasn't just a dog, he was a hero, and he deserves justice. Officer Grant deserves justice. We all deserve the truth." Titan's head lifted as if in agreement, his tail wagging faintly. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment. A boy and his dog, standing against corruption and lies. Reporters jostled for better angles, their questions rapid and urgent. "Who's responsible for this? What's the next step? Will there be an investigation?" Caleb answered calmly. "This evidence has been sent to the state police and federal authorities. We expect a full investigation to follow. Those responsible will be held accountable." The crowd's mood shifted from shock to determination, voices rising in support. Strangers called out words of encouragement, and Titan's name echoed through the square like a rallying cry. Daniel's father stepped forward, his voice strong. "We will not be silenced. The truth is out, and we stand together." As the press conference concluded, Daniel knelt beside Titan, wrapping his arms around the dog's neck. "We did it, buddy," he whispered. "We told them the truth." Titan nuzzled his shoulder, his tail brushing against the ground. In that moment, Daniel knew they had crossed a threshold. There was no turning back. The day of reckoning had begun, and though the road ahead would be long and uncertain, they would walk it together, armed with truth, courage, and the unbreakable bond of a boy and his dog. In the days following the press conference, Titan's story spread like wildfire. News outlets picked it up, sharing images of the brave K9 and the young boy who had refused to give up on him. Support poured in from across the country, letters, care packages, donations to cover veterinary expenses. But despite the public's embrace, the real work was just beginning. Titan's road to recovery was far from over. At home, Daniel dedicated himself to Titan's rehabilitation. Every morning, he woke early to help his parents administer medications and clean the dog's wounds. Titan's once weak legs grew stronger, though he still limped slightly, a reminder of the trauma he had endured. Daniel's hands trembled the first time he helped Titan stand, but the dog's determination matched his own. "You're getting stronger every day," Daniel whispered, his voice full of pride. Dr. Ellis visited often, monitoring Titan's progress with a mix of professional concern and personal attachment. She taught Daniel exercises to help rebuild Titan's muscles, gentle walks, massages, and stretches. "It'll take time," she warned, "but he's got a strong will to live. He's already come farther than I thought possible." Neighbors continued to stop by with treats and toys, their faces lighting up at the sight of Titan wagging his tail. One little girl even painted a picture of him, a vibrant display of hope and resilience. Daniel hung it in the living room, a daily reminder of how far they'd come. But it wasn't just physical healing that Titan needed. He had suffered a deep emotional wound, a betrayal from those he trusted most. At first, he flinched at loud noises, shying away from unfamiliar faces. Daniel understood and moved patiently, never forcing him, but offering quiet reassurance. Over time, Titan's confidence returned, his eyes brightening with each passing day. One afternoon, as the sun bathed the yard in golden light, Daniel coaxed Titan into a game of fetch. He hesitated at first, unsure of the simple joy, but when Daniel gently rolled a ball across the grass, Titan gave chase. His steps were unsteady, but when he returned the ball with a soft woof and a wagging tail, Daniel's heart soared. "That's it, buddy," he cheered. "You're coming back." The bond between boy and dog deepened through these moments of quiet triumph. Daniel's parents marveled at the transformation in both of them. "He's not just healing Titan," his mother whispered to his father. "They're healing each other." As the days turned into weeks, Titan's strength and spirit blossomed. His coat regained its healthy sheen, his tail wagged more confidently, and his steps became steadier. Daniel beamed with pride whenever neighbors or reporters stopped by to check on them. But more than the attention, it was the knowledge that he had made a difference, that he had given Titan a second chance, that filled his heart with pride. One evening, as the family gathered in the living room, Daniel sat beside Titan, resting his head against the dog's shoulder. "You're a hero, you know," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You saved people, and now you're teaching me how to be brave." Titan licked his cheek softly, his eyes warm and trusting. In the quiet glow of that moment, Daniel realized that Titan's story wasn't just about survival. It was about hope, resilience, and the power of compassion. Together, they had faced the darkness, and together, they were finding the light. The call came on a crisp autumn morning, the kind that carried the scent of fallen leaves and the promise of change. Daniel's father answered the phone, his eyes widening as he listened to the voice on the other end. When he hung up, he turned to the family with a mixture of disbelief and pride. "They want to honor Titan and Daniel," he said softly. "There's going to be a ceremony at the state capitol." Daniel's heart raced as he imagined standing beside Titan in front of crowds of strangers. He felt a wave of nerves, but also a deep sense of pride. Titan deserved the recognition. He had endured more than any animal should, and yet he had found the strength to survive and to bring justice to those who had wronged him. Preparations moved quickly. The local community rallied around them, offering support and encouragement. Neighbors brought banners and handmade signs, while Daniel's classmates crafted cards and posters filled with drawings and heartfelt messages. Even Dr. Ellis promised to attend, bringing along a framed photo of Titan's first day in her care. The day of the ceremony arrived with clear skies and a gentle breeze. The family, dressed in their best, arrived at the Capitol, where rows of chairs and a small stage had been set up. Reporters and camera crews clustered at the edges, their lenses trained on the boy and his dog. Titan, wearing a freshly polished K9 badge and a blue ribbon around his neck, sat tall and proud, his tail wagging as he surveyed the crowd. The governor stepped up to the podium, his voice carrying across the hushed audience. "Today, we honor not just a remarkable dog, but the courage and compassion of a young boy who refused to give up," he began. He recounted Titan's story, the rescue, the revelations, and the unwavering bond that had inspired a community and sparked a larger investigation. As Daniel and Titan were called to the stage, applause erupted. Daniel's cheeks flushed with a mix of pride and shyness as he stood before the crowd. Titan, sensing the moment, lifted his head high, his ears pricked forward. The governor knelt and presented Daniel with a medal inscribed with the words, "For bravery and compassion," while Titan was awarded an honorary K9 Medal for Service and Resilience. Tears shimmered in Daniel's eyes as he accepted the award, his hand resting on Titan's head. The dog nuzzled him gently, his tail thumping against the stage floor. Cameras clicked, capturing the bond between boy and dog, a testament to their shared journey. After the ceremony, reporters swarmed them with questions. Daniel, though overwhelmed, spoke clearly and with conviction. "Titan showed me what it means to be brave," he said. "He never gave up, and neither will I. We'll keep fighting for the truth, for justice, and for every animal who deserves a second chance." As the crowd dispersed, Daniel knelt beside Titan, his hand stroking the dog's thick fur. "We did it, buddy," he whispered. "They finally see you for the hero you are." Titan's tail wagged, and for a moment, the world felt bright and full of possibility. Together, they had turned tragedy into triumph, proving that even in the darkest times, courage and love could light the way forward. Weeks passed since the ceremony, but the echoes of applause and admiration still lingered in the air. Daniel and Titan were no longer just local heroes. They had become symbols of hope and resilience. The community rallied around them, and everywhere they went, people stopped to offer words of encouragement, gifts, and stories of how the duo had inspired them. At home, life slowly settled into a new routine. Titan's recovery continued, but his transformation was undeniable. His coat, once dull and matted, now gleamed in the sunlight. His gait had steadied, his muscles stronger with each day. He no longer flinched at sudden sounds or shied away from unfamiliar faces. Instead, he walked proudly beside Daniel, his tail wagging and his eyes alert, ready to face the world with renewed purpose. Daniel's family noticed a change in him as well. The shy, reserved boy who had once hidden behind books and quiet corners now spoke with confidence and conviction. He had found his voice, his cause, and a friend who had given him the courage to stand tall. Together, they visited local schools, sharing their story with other children, teaching them about resilience, compassion, and the importance of speaking up for those who couldn't. One afternoon, as Daniel and Titan sat on the front porch enjoying the late autumn sun, a knock sounded at the door. It was Caleb, holding a large manila envelope. His eyes were tired but hopeful. "The investigation's wrapping up," he said as he handed the envelope to Daniel's father. "They've arrested those responsible for the cover-up. Justice is finally being served." Relief washed over the family. Daniel glanced at Titan, who seemed to sense the shift, his tail thumping against the porch floor. "You did it, buddy," Daniel whispered. "We all did." Caleb sat with them for a while, sharing stories from his time with Officer Grant and Titan's early days as a K-9. Daniel listened intently, savoring every word, feeling an even deeper connection to the dog who had become his closest friend. "Officer Grant would be proud of you both," Caleb said quietly. "You've given Titan a second chance, and you've honored his legacy." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with shades of pink and gold, Daniel's mother brought out a tray of lemonade and cookies. They sat together, the weight of past months finally lifting, replaced by a sense of accomplishment and new beginnings. Titan rested his head on Daniel's knee, his eyes half closed in contentment. That evening, Daniel's father surprised the family with a new addition to their backyard. A small, handcrafted wooden plaque engraved with the words, "Titan's Haven, a place of hope and healing." Beneath it, a garden bloomed with flowers planted by Daniel and his mother, a vibrant tribute to the bond they shared with Titan and the journey they had taken together. Word of Titan's story continued to spread, inspiring others to advocate for animal welfare and speak out against injustice. Local shelters reported an increase in adoptions, and donations poured in to support K-9 units and rescue organizations. Daniel's classmates started a fundraiser for animals in need, while the town organized an annual event in Titan's honor, celebrating resilience and the power of compassion. For Daniel, the future felt bright and full of promise. He knew there were still challenges ahead, but with Titan by his side, he felt ready to face them all. Together, they had turned a chance encounter into a legacy of courage and kindness. As they watched the stars appear one by one, Daniel whispered softly, "Here's to new beginnings, buddy. Here's to forever."